Hey guys, welcome back to Friends and Enemas. I'm here with I feel like you're my friend.
Yeah.
My friend Julie.
Yes.
You want to introduce yourself?
My name is Julie McFadden, and I'm a nurse and death and dying educator on all social media. So it started on TikTok, but I have since moved to, Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, which is my favorite now.
Really?
Yes, I love YouTube.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it's my favorite. It's like the nicest and the easiest, and the community seems cool. Anyway, so that's my favorite, and
Okay.
I'm coming out with a book.
Yes. I'm
Yes.
excited to hear about your book. I haven't read all of it. I just started. I'm on chapter 2.
Did you read some of it?
I did
Good
read some
for
of it.
you.
I did read some of it, and I'm excited for chapter 6, to be
Yeah.
honest, which we're going to talk about, which I've seen all over social media, and that's why I'm excited for that because I can relate to it a little bit.
Can you?
Yes.
Okay.
If you guys don't know, I'm an ICU nurse, and she's a hospice
Oh, yeah. I
nurse.
didn't even say that. Did I say it? I'm a hospice nurse. That's the whole reason why I'm here. I'm a hospice nurse. I've been a nurse for 16 years.
Yes.
ICU first, and then moved to hospice. Yeah, I was ICU nurse for most of my career.
Oh, really?
And then I moved to hospice.
How long were you ICU nurse? Can I ask?
8 or 9 years. I could lose track. And then I've been a hospice nurse for about 8 years, I think.
Okay.
So almost half and half.
Okay. Why did you leave ICU nursing?
There's so many reasons.
Yeah.
I mean,
I hear a lot of the same reasons, and I'm curious if it's the feelings I have too. That's why I always like to ask.
so I feel like after a couple years of being in the ICU nurse, it killed me. Like it killed my soul. I was working at Johns Hopkins purposely because I wanted to work at the best hospital, and no shade to them. I loved it. I mean, no, I didn't love it. I learned a lot. And I loved my years in Baltimore, Maryland with my friends and all the things.
Yeah.
But it was just so hectic, and it was just so much work. And it was not what I expected. I thought I was going to work there for 2 years, then go into anesthesia. I had a whole plan of what I was going to do. And then after 2 years, I was like, I know so little, and this is so hard, and I don't know if I really like this.
Yeah.
So to think about going back to school was no way. I need to, first off, work more because I feel like I know nothing.
Yeah.
And
I'll feel that.
the whole hurry up and care, I felt like I had to hurry up all the time. I was constantly in a hurry. It was really hard to for me to care appropriately. I just got a lot of compassion fatigue. I was just super, super burnout after 2 years.
Yeah.
And then I stayed there for another 6. And I travel nurse and did a bunch of different things to make it better.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So ultimately I left because it was just not the kind of nursing I liked. And I decided to go to hospice because of being an ICU nurse and just seeing not everyone dies there. Obviously, we do great work and many people live. But I just felt like even if they lived, they were usually dying from something anyway. So I saw a lot of pancreatic cancer patients who probably extended their life a few years, but I still felt like we did a really bad job at even educating about the fact that they were terminal.
Yeah.
And talking about how if they didn't make it out of the ICU, what does that mean, and what is death going to look like, and are they going to survive? And it just felt like we were doing a disservice to many people. And I thought, we're all going to die, and if that's the case, I want to be doing it a different way.
Yeah.
So
I relate to that a lot. I started in the ICU as a new grad. I'm still an ICU nurse, and I do love ICU to an extent. And it's because there's a boundary I'm not allowed to push past legally, policy-wise.
yeah,
And it's really what's best for the patient. A lot of times I can't do that.
yeah,
Or I'm not allowed to talk about it. I'm not allowed to educate them towards a certain area because it's out of my scope, etc. But then I feel like other people are not doing their job by truly educating them.
yeah.
When I moved to the transplant ICU, that's when I really was like, no, this will burn. How on earth can anyone work here this long? I feel like the general public does not know about transplants enough.
Right.
And a lot of those patients suffer much more mentally after their transplant, et cetera. But it just feels like they're not given the appropriate information, and a lot of them die without dignity.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something I've gotten from your page is you really you don't like death, but death is going to happen. And you want your patients to know and the families to know that they're going to die one way or another, but with dignity is the biggest gift you can give someone.
I really feel like we do a disservice by not being, I don't know. I don't truly know what the answer is. I feel like we need to be a little more blunt
Yeah, I do
Because
too.
I think if people knew, if we said something to them like, okay, this is probably a little too blunt, but just I always thought, well, why are we not saying like, listen, you're gonna die probably in the next 6 months, like for almost for sure. Of course, there's no one ever wants to say that because they always want to be like, but you never know. We kind of do.
Yeah,
That's
we kind of
bullshit, especially medical professionals, especially certain diseases, certain things. Yes, we do kind of do know they're gonna die in 6 months, maybe a year.
Yeah.
That's not a long time. And I think if people truly understood that, no matter what you do, you're going to die within 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? And that's not said, and people don't want to hear that. So, or if it is said, then the doctor follows up with, and again, no shade to doctors, I get it, but I think we need to change this whole thing where it's like, then they say, but here's what we can do. And they give them a couple of different options, right? And I'm not saying those are wrong, and I want people to have, but I just want everyone to have all the options.
Yeah.
And the
All
other
the
option would
information.
be like, don't do anything.
Yeah.
Or you can do these things, but let's still start planning for your death because that's inevitable. And how do you want your life to look before you die?
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I think something
Soapbox.
but it's so true, and it's something I feel like that I'm passionate about as well. Whenever I'm working bedside and I have a patient that is terminally ill, that is probably going to die within their stay in the ICU.
Wow, yeah.
And you'll have one specialist like nephrology come by, and they'll say, "Oh, well, they look great on my end," and leave the room. And I'm like, "You just gave that family hope. They look great. You didn't go into the details of the kidneys are working properly for this moment, but their heart's not working, their lungs aren't working, they're still on a ventilator. There's still so many things going on, but that gives family this inkling of hope that they're going to leave here like they were before they came."
Yep.
And I'm always like, what? Why are they allowed to do that? And it is no shame towards doctors. I understand they have like a task list longer than mine. They have patients longer than mine, but it's frustrating because I'm the one left with that patient and their family and their questions. And then inevitably, if the patient passes, they're like, but they said he was okay. They said she or he was okay.
The whole idea that our medical system like doesn't talk and I kind of get it because nephrology is like they are fine on my end.
It's like,
I know the pulmonologist comes in like, oh, we're trending, like these numbers are trending up. Maybe we'll be able to wean them off the vent eventually. Let's do a sedation vacation. Do they still do that?
Yes, they still do that. Those drive me. They're good and they're bad.
They're good and they're bad. And we used to have now we're getting like way off. Like anybody who's not a nurse is like, what the hell?
They're like, who?
We used to have an attending that would do sedation vacations with people not on pressure. They were like fully supported by vents, and they were like, take off the sedation, see how they do.
They're gonna
feel like they're suffocating.
They're breathing through a straw.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't understand.
And I would be like, neither do I. I mean, I just feel like that's bad. I was just gonna say like bad doctoring. Yeah, it's mean, and really, I would just not listen to them, and we would know whenever that attending would go by, no one would say a word because she was well, now everyone knows her gender. That's fine, but she was well known.
Yeah,
and she was just cocky. You know, it was like whatever. It is what it is. But and we would just have the respiratory therapist like right by the bed, so we could just slowly start changing things, which we I don't know. It just was like, why are we torturing people? This is kind of off topic, but
well, you're getting to the point of they have this checklist instead of making it a situational. Like each case is different. If someone is on. If you guys don't know, if someone's fully on a ventilator, the ventilator is taking full control of their lungs. They have no
control,
breathing room. No control. It feels like you're breathing through a straw.
And if you are fully supported, it also feels like there's air flowing in, forcing into your lungs if you're not breathing.
Waterboarded.
I know.
I don't know.
It's torture.
Like that.
I mean,
it is.
Anyway,
yeah, sorry.
So
a little tangent, but I liked it. But after that, you went into hospice, and I want to pause because there's something about you that I've been following you for a while, and there's some things I saw on social media that I was like, that's interesting, and it's cool because I get asked a lot about these topics I'm about to bring up. Is that you were an addict?
Yeah.
Would you tell us more about that story? How it came about, if it's trauma related, whatever you're comfortable with telling us. But I do get a lot of questions about this, and I'm like, wow, you're like very inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know. I think addiction is like rampant everywhere.
It is.
But also in medical care.
Yeah.
Provide. Like
Providers.
I feel like so many again, only someone personally can say if they are an addict alcoholic.
Yes.
And I feel like I hung with many nurses who drank and acted like me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, like
it's
like kind of a culture, at least the culture I was in. It was
is.
like not weird to heavily drink, right? So
it's still not weird. That's still a thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's like I wouldn't say not weird. It's still very apparent.
Yeah, and very
in our
accepted.
culture.
That was
Exactly.
like, this is what we do. We get wasted.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's
fuck
like a
it,
joke.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you couldn't have told me back then. So when I was in the ICU, you could not have told me I was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I would be like, fuck you. You're just fucking boring.
Yeah.
Like, I would not have thought I was an alcoholic. So my story, I am a drug addict alcoholic. So I was definitely addicted to drugs when I was young before I became a nurse. I did pills and a heroin, and I didn't shoot anything, but I just snorted things all the time.
Yeah.
Until I was heavily addicted to it. And I got off of those things in college on my own.
Congrats.
Thank you. I mean, I wouldn't recommend doing it on your own, but it is what it is.
But it worked for you.
My whole point of saying all of that is that, like, I think addiction and alcoholism is really misunderstood. Like, even when I was like doing pills or heroin, which is like people would consider hard drugs, daily, and I would get like dope sick if I didn't have it, and I still was like, yeah, but I'm in college. Like, I'm in college, I have a job, like, I'm doing what I need to do. Like, what does that matter then? Who cares if I'm doing that every day? Like, I wouldn't have considered myself a drug addict.
Yeah.
It was only towards the end, and that was for, 6 months to a year or something. I was doing it daily, where it just gets getting scarier and scarier, and like a little shadier and a little shadier, and you're like ending up in people's houses and places you would never think you would be, or at least I didn't think I would be. Yeah. And it became a little more apparent. I would like steal my friends' stuff. It would just became a little more like my friends actually were doing recreational drugs.
Yeah.
And I was like a little more than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was like stealing shit and like ending up at weird places like dope houses, like just like junky stuff, which sounds really judgmental, but I didn't think I was a junkie, even though I was like doing stuff like that. Right. I still was like, yeah, but no, I'm in college. I'm just like having fun.
It's just what we do.
Yeah, I'm just like a fun party girl. So just to spare you a long story, I like just stopped that. Just stopped cold turkey, which I'm really lucky I didn't. I mean, I did have really bad withdrawals, but I didn't. But I used alcohol to help me get off of that. Okay. And again, I was young and naive, and I wasn't in nursing school yet. I didn't know anything about anything, and I was just sort of like, this is like what people in college do. I don't know. And a lot of people I was around did. Yeah. Like it was like kind of normal.
Yep.
So I remember just heavily drinking at that time and getting off of like hard drugs. So then I really wasn't a drug addict because I'm like not doing hard drugs. I'm just drinking and smoking weed and doing coke, which is also a hard drug. But at the time, it was like a party drug.
Drug. It still is considered a party drug.
Exactly. Yes. So I did that for many years. Through nursing school, becoming a nurse, like party. And that was like my whole identity. Yeah. And I always knew that there was like something weird about it. And I had consequences in the sense of like, I mean, I never got in trouble with the law. I never got DUIs. Like I never had like consequences like that would, to me, justify like, oh, I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah. Right.
It was just more of like, this is who I am. This is what I like to do. I like to party and go to work, and who cares? Mm-hmm. Or no, like I'm partying, but I'm going to work, so who cares? Like that type of thing.
I feel you. You were functional.
Yeah, functional. Yeah. And, but I always knew in the back of my mind, like something was a little off. And addiction, like, is all through my family, and it's like, I believe it's genetic.
It is. It's in mine too.
Yes, and I think it's a disease. And like my brother was a drug addict, alcoholic. My grandparents were. It's like all through my family.
Yeah.
And it just sort of got weirder and weirder. So I ended up moving to California because of a breakup when I was 30. And then like once I hit 30, I remember moving here and being like, I'm going to do something else. I'm not going to find a bunch of nursing friends who like to drink like me. God bless my friends. I love them dearly.
Yes,
but, it was like, that was like party town, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm moving to California and I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to live with my sister. She doesn't really drink. I'm not going to meet friends that drink. I'm going to like cleanse myself and just be different. Start fresh.
Yeah.
And I really couldn't. I really couldn't. I like did, but not really. And I couldn't have fun. And I didn't know like, and then everyone I did meet didn't drink like I did. So it was like really not fun being around them. And then I found myself like once I started and I was around people who weren't drinking like me, it was like really uncomfortable to try to sit there and just like casually drink. And I was like, this fucking sucks. Like I'm leaving. And I would leave and go drink by myself in my room.
Oh, yeah.
So then it would get like weirder and weirder. And it just got to a point where I was like, this is weird. Like I'm drinking alone. I'm drinking like a couple bottles of wine. And slowly I started like changing jobs. Like I told you earlier, like I did become a hospice nurse because I wanted to change. And I did think it was a better way to die if you were going to die. And it was easier to be hungover at work. I remember thinking that. I remember thinking, oh my God, I could drink every night. And being so excited. I could drink every night and go to work hungover. And no one will know. And I'll still do my job. And this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I would be super fucking hungover, driving to patients' house. I would throw up in patients' homes. I remember once it started getting bad, where it was like, it was so clear. I was like drinking alone all the time and it was no longer a party girl thing. Like I wasn't like partying at all. I was like by myself drinking.
And you're like isolated at this point.
Yeah, isolated at this point. My sister was like seeing it because I lived with her. But and I used to be like, I just hate everything, blah, blah, blah. And she'd be like, I think you're just hungover. Like, I think you're just always hungover. I'd be like, that's not it. It's my life. Yeah. It's my life. And she's like, I think you'd feel a little better if you just like didn't drink so much. But I remember being really sick and driving and not being able to pull over because it was like, I wasn't on the freeway, but I was on a really busy street. And I threw up all over my car,
really?
All on the inside of the car. Like, and then I had to go be a nurse. And I remember thinking like, you're too old for this, dude. I was probably 32 at the time. And I was like the vomiting in my car before going to see a hospice patient. Like, what is your problem?
Yeah.
So it was bad, but it wasn't like what I think people think alcoholism is. Most people, I think they think you have to be in rehab. You have to have a bunch of DUIs. You have to get in trouble at work. Like I didn't have any of those things.
Sure. But you still hit your own personal rock bottom.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone hits a rock bottom and it looks different to everyone.
Yeah. And my rock bottom was I eventually quit drinking. I'm still giving you a long story, but it's still even longer if we had the time, which we don't. So, I eventually was like, I gotta stop, right? A bunch of things had happened, but nothing like really big. But I was sort of like, okay, this is it. I'm going to quit drinking. I'm going to quit doing drugs, meaning like weed. And I'm going to get all of the things I want, which is like, I'm going to be creative. I'm going to write. I'm going to, I don't even know what I wanted to do. I'm going to go hiking. Like I'm going to do something besides like go to work and drink alcohol at night. Because by that time I was really just drinking wine. Like wine was my downfall, dude.
Yeah.
And like I could get it delivered. Like I was like just doing my thing.
Yeah.
And so I did. And for 11 months, Lindsay, I didn't drink or do drugs. Yeah. And that is how I hit my rock bottom. Because that is alcoholism. People think alcoholism is just about drinking and using drugs and then stopping. It is not. It is like centered in, from what I believe, it's like centered in the mind. And like, it wasn't, was that the dog? The dog's like, like it wasn't, and it is, I was baseline anxiety, depression, like all the things, like, and born with alcoholism. Like, I feel like I was an alcoholic before I took a drink. Like, I was just not okay since a little girl. And then alcohol relieved me of all of that. And then I stopped, and then it all came back. Yeah. And it's not just like, oh, it's depression, so go get on medication, go get counseling. Right. Because then if that was the case, then I could drink normally afterwards. Mm-hmm. And that's not how it works for me anyway. Like I know it centers in my mind, but also I have an obsessive mind. So if I drink alcohol, I have a physical allergy where I can't stop.
Yeah.
Like people can just casually have some alcohol. I cannot.
Yeah.
Like the second I drink alcohol, I'm like the next one, next one, next one, next
point
one,
is to
next
get
one,
drunk.
next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and if I can't, it's like someone's burning my throat with fire or something. It's like so obsessive.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that, but after 11 months of not drinking, I thought my life was going to be different. I'd be happy. And I wasn't. I was more miserable than I ever could have been. Yeah. I was more isolated. My life was so small. I would say I was suicidal. I mean, I didn't have a plan, but like I felt like I need to die because I did the thing that I finally wanted to do. I finally did it.
Yeah.
And I was so miserable.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I thought for a long time it was what was wrong with me is how much I drank. And then I stopped. And then here I am still.
Yeah, you're right.
And I was so, it was just like, I was so low. And I remember making the decision like, well, I guess I'm going to drink again. Like, fuck this. If I'm going to like, I'm not going to not drink and be miserable. I thought I'd be happy.
Yeah.
So I made the choice to start drinking again that day. And I remember going to the grocery store, not to like get alcohol. I think I had to work or something, but I remember thinking like, after this, I'm going to drink.
Yeah.
And then I happened to run into a girl who I kind of knew from this comedy club that I used to perform at. And she ended up like talking to me and inviting me to go on a hike. And on the hike, I like told her what was going on with me.
Yeah.
And she was like, you sound like an alcoholic. And I was like, what?
How dare you?
I know. I was like, I'm not an alcoholic. I know what
You saw a different version.
Yeah, I'm like, my brother's an alcoholic. My grandpa's an alcoholic. Like, I've never gotten a DUI. Like, I go to work every day. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And she was like, that's not what an alcoholic is.
Yeah.
I know. She was like, my mom's an alcoholic and she's a lawyer and she's been sober for a bunch of years and she still considers herself an alcoholic. She's in AA and blah, blah, blah. So she starts talking about AA. And anyway, I still wasn't convinced.
Yeah.
But she was like, you need some friends, girl. Like, you need to get some sober friends. You need to just go to AA. And she wasn't in AA, but she was like all for it for some reason.
Yeah.
And she was like, just go to AA to meet friends. Like, you need to meet people that are like you, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I was desperate enough that day to be like, oh, fuck it. I'll try anything.
Yeah.
Because I'm like dying here, literally.
Yeah.
And so she took me to my first meeting. And nothing happened, AA meeting, and nothing happened. I was scared to death, and I really didn't think I was an alcoholic, so it was like hard to sit there and listen, and I was like totally confused. But because it is kind of weird if you like don't know what's going on.
Sure.
Like there's things being said, and you're like, what's happening? Like there's like things. So anyway, but for some reason, because I was so desperate, I went to another meeting by myself the next day.
Yeah.
And that meeting is where everything changed. Because I was honest.
Yeah.
And I cried. And I was just like, I need help.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I definitely don't think I'm an alcoholic. Of course. I'm like, I'm not an alcoholic. But like.
But I'm here.
I know. But I'm here and like, I'm dying and I haven't been drinking, but I feel miserable. And I don't know what's wrong with me. You know, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And of course, like, I thought I was so unique and I didn't think anyone had this story, but like so many people there were like, me too. Of course. This is alcoholism. You have alcoholism. And I just didn't know what I was like suffering from. So anyway, that started my journey into sobriety. And my life has changed. My life has changed. And it's a whole nother soapbox that if I didn't do a channel on like death and dying, I would do a channel on sobriety. Because
that's why I'm so thankful and grateful that you're so open about it.
Yeah.
I'm a child of a parent that's an addict, and it's very difficult having a relationship with them, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
But even so, as me growing up, I was terrified to try anything because I was like, that's gonna be me. And it very well could have been. I don't know why it wasn't me.
Yeah, right.
But I appreciate your honesty with it because so many people suffer with this, whether it's them, a family member, someone they know, someone they love. And you're being so open about it and showing like it can be isolating, but you can get out of it and blossom from it because now you're a whole author.
Yeah, no.
You're a nurse, but you're an author.
Yeah.
Your book is right in front of us.
I know.
And that's really freaking cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to pivot.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing your story seriously, because it's going to help someone out there.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about your book. I'm excited about your book. I'm
you.
only on chapter 2, admittedly, but I've been watching every TikTok that you post about it, and I'm excited for chapter 6.
Yeah.
About the death phenomenon.
Yeah.
And I bring that one up because it's something I see in the ICU a lot. It's something that confuses family members. It confuses any patient's loved ones. They're like, what is that noise coming from their throat? Why are they visioning? Why are they seeing people? Do you have a specific story that you feel like explains that, or that you want to share?
Well, what's funny is when I was an ICU nurse, and I don't know if it was because I wasn't as open or I was just so stressed out, I don't remember really seeing the things I see as a hospice nurse. Like the things I know and see now as a hospice nurse, not just the deathbed phenomena, but even like the way the body dies biologically and stuff on hospice is like wild to me. But the first couple of years of being a hospice nurse and seeing all the different deathbed phenomena that we can't really explain that happen was like mind blowing to me. And for a long time, I would like brush it off, and just be like, I don't know. But now it's like, it's just so wild. I mean, it just happens so often that we have to educate families about it, because they'll be freaked out if we don't.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's a pattern.
Yeah.
It's very much
a pattern, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So like the number one phenomenon we see the most, 1 in every 3 patients, which is wild, is terminal lucidity, which is like the surge or the rally, where they have like the burst of energy before they die. And I always try to educate prior to it happening, if it does, so they can kind of not only so they're not devastated when they die shortly after, which I can explain what it is in a second. Sorry. Everyone's like, what's she talking about?
Yeah, no.
So the rally, just for anyone knows, the rally is when you look like you're very ill and you're going to die, and everyone's kind of coming into town. It's going to be soon. It's going to be any day. And then suddenly they have a burst of energy and they are like their old selves again. They might feel hungry. It depends on the burst of energy, but some people can really come back around. Get up and walk.
The strength. Like they get up and walk.
Ask for cheeseburgers, eat full meals, laugh, talk do
about
whatever.
Memories from like before and like all this stuff.
Yeah. For usually a few hours to a few days. If it's more than a couple days, it's not the rally.
Yeah.
Because, so it's usually only a couple days and then they die. So that's the hard part.
Yeah.
It's not funny. I laugh like every time.
I laugh too.
I know.
Laughing is just a coping mechanism that we have. It doesn't mean we think it's actually funny.
Yes. So then they die, which is the bad part. But so I try to educate families before it happens. So 1, they're not devastated. They'll still be devastated, but it's not as shocking when someone dies. And then 2, so they can kind of catch it. Because a lot of times they can go unnoticed, or it's kind of like you don't know it's the last hurrah. You think maybe they're just having a good day, or like, that you're just, or you're more concerned because you're like, they're up walking around. Like, what's going on? Get back to bed. You're going to hurt yourself, so they can appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
So that's one. And I see it all the time. I saw it with I didn't know it happened with my grandma, but it did happen with my grandma per my mom, which she didn't know what it was called until after she saw my video. And then she was like, she was like, oh my God, grandma had the rally.
Yes.
Yeah.
People can recognize what it is. We had a family member that same thing happened, and he had this burst of energy, and his brother was like, oh, like he's doing better. Yeah. It's like, oh, wait. He could be.
Yes.
But probably not. It's like always a thing of like it. And I always try to tell families when this happens that this is your chance to bond with them for one last time. Yeah. This is your chance to say anything you've wanted to say, love on them as much as you want, because it's most likely the rally, the surge. Other people call it the roller coaster. It has several names, but the rally and the surge are the top 2. Yeah. And it's kind of a special moment. Yeah. It's like your last really good moment with them. So make it count.
Yeah. Be present.
Yeah.
Then the second one is the visioning. So there's a bunch, but like visioning is like also the big one, which I would not have believed if I didn't see it so friggin' often.
Same.
And that's when people see dead relatives or dead loved ones, dead pets.
Yes.
I had a young woman see all of her dead pets.
I hope that's what I see.
I know.
Personally.
Yeah. So a lot of her dead pets were coming to her, and people don't understand, she was completely lucid. She was definitely ill and dying, but she was totally lucid and being like, I'm seeing my dead dog. I am seeing my dead cats. And she had a bunch of alive cats and dogs with her. And she was being like, I'm also seeing my dead cats and my dead dog. So it's things like that. People seeing, angels, people seeing God, people or whatever they believe to be God, right? Just depends. So many, it happens so often, Lindsay, that it's like hard to even think. I can think of like specific stories, and they're also in the book. Like there was a gentleman who, the family calls me over because like they're concerned because he's confused. I go see him. He's totally fine, not confused, and doesn't say anything to me, right? And then once the family leaves, he grabs my arm and is like, Julie, my parents came to me last night. They came to me last night. They said everything was going to be fine. They said they're coming to get me soon, but not yet. But I feel so much better. And my family thinks I'm crazy.
Oh, I was going to say he's whispering to you for a reason.
Yeah. So he's like whispering to me, and I'm like, it's okay. I'm like, as long as you're okay with it, as long as you're comfortable, like, just go with it. And he's like, no, I feel so much better. I know you probably think I'm crazy, but and then I just reassure him, like, I don't think you're crazy. I see this all the time. Yeah. Like, just go with it as long as you're comfortable. Yeah. Like, and I do say, like, we don't know what it is, but it does happen a lot. So just go with it. And then I leave, right? And then the family pulls me aside. Julie, like, he told me he saw his dead parents last night. And I'm like, and they were really concerned though. They really were like, we need to start Haldol. I want to start something. I'm like, no, it's okay. It's normal. Then you just educate, and they're like, okay.
Yeah, they just never heard of it before. Yeah. I think the only time I'm scared is when it's a patient saying they see like the shadow man in the corner. I'm like, please stop telling me that.
So that's what in the ICU. That's all I heard. Like, I never really saw people seeing. Like, I never experienced what I would say visioning in the ICU. I feel like I had like a lot of ICU delirium or psychosis where they'd be like, "Who's that man with the dark hat?" And I'd be like, "Where?"
I'm like, I don't know.
On night shift, I'd be like, he's gone. I don't think he's here anymore. They're like, yes, he is. He's right over there. I'm like, oh my God.
I'm like, well, I'm gonna leave. Try to go to sleep. Thank you. That's terrifying.
I know.
But that happens a lot more. I agree. That happens a lot more than visioning.
Yeah.
My husband and I are both nurses, and when we were in nursing school, we were taking care of people in their homes, kind of as like an at-home nurse tech.
Yeah.
Kind of like on the side, and we took care of two very special people, but one of them ended up going to hospice, a hospice house. Mm-hmm. And his family had told us, he's really bad. You can please come see him. They think that he's going to pass soon. Please come see him, but he's not going to remember you. He doesn't even know who we are in the room. And I was like, oh, that's sad, because we bonded with him. So we came in there. We're telling him goodbye. His eyes are closed, and I was just kind of whispering to him, thoughtful things. And he opens his eyes. Where have you two been? I was like, oh, he remembers it. I was bawling. I was like, oh my God. They're like, he doesn't even remember us, like his family. But he said, where have you two been? Like the two caretakers. And I was like, that will forever be in my memory. But it was a cool moment because he did remember something, or at least we brought some type of like goodness to his mind. I don't know, but that's only happened once, and I'm like, everyone else was like, who are you? I'm like, damn, darn it.
If you ever become a hospice nurse, it'll be like that. It'll be like, I feel like it's so much more meaningful.
It is.
And you can still have good boundaries. Like, I still have like really great boundaries and really special moments. Like, you don't have to I think people think when you're a hospice nurse, all of that goes out the window. Like, not at all for me.
Yes, and that's something we were kind of talking about before we started, is I used to think hospice, absolutely not, I couldn't do it. I used to think it was just scary in a sense, or it's all death. I don't want to deal with death. Actually, I'm in ICU and I deal with death all the time.
Yeah.
But it's people dying without dignity. It's people dying with their wills being changed, their code status being changed, that family is allowed to do these things. And it's heartbreaking to watch as a nurse, and I can't do anything about it, even though we're the advocate. There's so many issues with it. In hospice, I feel like they already know they're going to die, and they're going to get the best form of death that there is. It's peaceful, it's comfortable, it's beautiful in a sense.
Yeah.
And my mind of hospice has really changed because of pages like yours. Seriously.
Thank you, yeah. And your job as the nurse is to because there's still when you first, to see how much your education helps them, when you're in there because they're scared, you know, and then you can, it's not like you alleviate all the fears, but there are a bunch of things you can say to be like, this is how it's going to be most likely. And here's how we're going to help. And we'll do this and this and this. And here's what we can, you know, and by the end of the visit, they're like, thank you, you know, and for once someone's willing to like talk about their death and talk about what to expect and talk about how it might be. And, like, not that we need nursing to be a thankful job. People often say like, oh, nursing's a thankless job.
Yeah.
Hospice nursing is not.
See, you're the third hospice nurse, 3 out of 3 to tell me that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every hospice nurse I've met so far has really loved their job.
Yeah.
And kind of helping people exit this life.
Yeah.
I wish we had more time because I could talk to you for days about this, but I want to bring up your book.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it is coming out, is it the 11th?
Yeah, the 11th.
The 11th of this month.
Yep.
It's
so
like right around the corner.
Yes, Tuesday of this coming week.
So you guys can pre-order if you didn't know.
Yeah, you can pre-order.
Exciting.
Yeah.
What's your favorite chapter in your book? Do you have a favorite chapter?
Oh my God, I don't have a favorite chapter. Okay. I have a favorite part of my book, so my book is called Nothing to Fear: Demystifying Death to Live More Fully.
Yes.
And it is meant to be a resource. So you could read it from cover to cover. You definitely could. And it's meant to be like that. And it's not just like a textbook. I put stories in there to make it like a nice read, right? And if you need it in a pinch to be like, if you're taking care of somebody and you're like, what the hell is this, right? You can look. This is my favorite part. This is so dorky. Into the index.
Oh, heck yeah.
There's literally an index where you can look up accepting help, actively dying phase, and it'll give you all the pages where you could like look things up. So it's really to me, it's really about living better. I know that sounds so cheesy, but I really feel like the more you learn about death and dying, the better you will live. Because personally, myself, I see death day in and day out. And if I'm not seeing it, I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I truly live better because I contemplate my own mortality. Yeah. And by doing that, it like helps me reframe my brain for the day about like what's important, you know, noticing the breeze on my face, right? Noticing the sun, like hearing the birds, like little things that make me happy.
Yeah.
And that's what I think life is all about. That's what my patients have taught me. Like people always ask me like, what are the biggest regrets of your patients? Like, what do they say? There are several, but the one that always stands out that almost every single one of them says is not appreciating their health.
Really?
Yeah. So like many people think it's about like working their life away, blah, blah, blah. But most of them will always say, I'm not appreciating when I was healthy. Because we do take for granted that we feel good most of the time and can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
So.
I love that.
Yeah.
What is one thing you want to leave? What's the last thing you want to leave for somebody? Or if someone's listening to this, whether they're here for their loved ones passing, them being on hospice, or even from addiction, is there anything you want to say to someone?
Yeah.
Something you want to tell them?
Oh, Lindsay, there's so many things. Okay, I guess just generally speaking about life, right? I think I kind of already said it. So my channel, Hospice Nurse Julie, which I feel like I might not have said that, Hospice Nurse Julie is meant to be, like I said, again, is it meant to be about living. So I talk all about death. But it's because I think in talking all about death, educating yourself about what it truly means for a body to die, like all the biological stuff, truly, and then all of the other things that come along with that, all the existential stuff that I talk about as well. Yeah. Understanding those things and thinking about those things truly helps you live better. And I think if you live better, you die better.
Yeah. I love that.
So, yeah.
Well, where can everyone find you? You're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram?
Yep. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Hospice
Nurse Julie. And you can get my book basically anywhere you get books. Yes. But at hospicenursejulie.com, there's like a bunch of links. So you could get it there too. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for doing this with me. It's finally great to meet you, Bradley.
I know. It's been great.
Okay. Bye, guys.